All right, so the first thing we're gonna go over is how you set up. How's your stance? When you go out and shake hands, what are you doing? What are you thinking about? How are you gonna put yourself in a position to score? How are you gonna put yourself in a position to limit his attacks? Most of the time, when I talk about stance, it's really about your elevation. So how high are you relative to your opponent? So a lot of times you'll see guys and they'll have the exact same stance every time. Exact same stance every time, and they won't make any adjustments really. They'll just be trying to go forward, just be trying to go backward, and they won't let themselves flow side to side. They won't let themselves change elevation, and what happens a lot of times is they get stuck in one tiny little area when there's this huge space to wrestle in. And I always call it like a jumping off point. So the first thing I'm thinking about is I'm gonna make sure that I'm about half an inch lower than he is. My eyes are just a little bit lower than his are, so that I know that he's gonna have to make a dramatic level change and go through my entire field of vision before he can attack. So the first thing I do, I'm a right leg lead. So when I'm in my stance, Dake gets in his stance, my goal is just to be a little bit lower than his. Now it doesn't happen always, but for the most part, when you wrestle a guy in your weight class, you're probably gonna be able to do this. And a lot of times you'll see this, guys will come in like, oh, my eyes are lower than his, but now I'm straight-legged. And that could be a big problem because when you go straight-legged, like your ability to move side to side and defend greatly diminishes. So when you're in your stance, you wanna have your butt down and a good knee bend. So when you have, when I talk about being in my stance, it's not just about having, oh, my butt's really low and I'm under him. Well, right now I have no power. So you don't wanna go through too many extremes when you're in your stance. Another really important part is how my back is set up. You'll see some guys hunched over like this and wrestling in their stance like this. The reason that's a problem is you don't recruit the muscles on the back side of your body. So if you're wrestling like this and you're hunched over, you're using all the front side of your muscles. So you're using your quads, your anterior tibialis, you're using basically your anterior chain is what we call it. So what you have to do, as soon as you go flat back, right here, now my hamstrings are engaged, my calves are engaged, and now I can create more power. And my ability to move in my stance becomes, just goes through the roof. So that's the first part of what I want to talk about is just holding a good stance. Now, we got the legs, what am I gonna do with my arms? A lot of times when we're in our stance and our partner's in our stance, we shake hands, and then the first thing you'll see is guys just attack the head. They'll lunge at the head. Well, if you see what happens to my weight distribution when I'm in my stance and I lunge to Gabe's head, all of my weight is leaning forward. If he takes a small step back, chops my arms, or level changes, goes post, there's a lot of different things that can happen because you got so anxious to go touch it. So what we call it, and what I do, is I just call it a head lead. So the first point of contact is always my head. So anytime we're wrestling, the first point of contact, I'll keep in my stance, I'll move in my stance, heads first. Arms are relaxed, ready to down block, ready to stop his first attack. So when I'm wrestling, my goal is always to work down and up. So rarely are you gonna see me reach up here to his head. Most of the time, it'll be down low, I'll be looking to grab wrists, and then I'm climbing and putting him in a position that I wanna be in, okay? So by doing that, you eliminate some of the possibilities that he has. Well, if I grab someone's wrist, or someone grabs my wrist, there's a few things I can do. I can go drag, I can fight the thumb, go single leg, attack low. But if someone's staying low and going for my wrist, rarely am I going to try to reach up, because if I go to grab, if Gabe comes to grab my wrist and I do this, what's exposed then? Or if I do this, he has an opportunity to get to my legs. So that's why I need to be disciplined in where I keep my hands, relax my arms, and be intelligent with where I'm going to grab this guy at the start. So again, good position. Knees are bent, butt's down, back is flat, head is up. I'm trying to track his hips, okay? I'm not looking at his eyes, I'm not looking at his feet. I'm trying to look at his hips so that my peripheral vision can watch where his head goes and watch where his feet goes. First thing we do, head contact. Now there's gonna be some times where you do reach up to grab the head or pop the head. I'll pop the head just to get my head in the pocket, or I'll go collar tie, try to get here so I have an angle on this guy. And most of the time when we talk about angles, it's tiny, tiny little angles. It's not like I'm jumping all the way over here to get an angle on him. It's most of the time it's just one small side step. Now, if I only got off his center line like 10 degrees maybe, but that's enough to get him to react. If I'm here, Gabe's probably gonna move his feet and circle the other way. So, just by holding good position, you can dictate where the match is gonna go. You can dictate, and you have to understand what you're doing. A lot of times guys will come in and they'll try to wrestle and they'll be like, oh, I'm just gonna go out and hit my wrestling moves. Well, there's a lot deeper than that at the start. You have to have a plan, and that plan only comes from your practice hours leading up to the event. You're not just gonna all of a sudden go out and do it and then have a really good understanding of what you're trying to do. A lot of times when you see guys drilling, it'll be, they'll come in, they'll walk in, put their hands up, and then they'll go into their drill. Well, that's okay if you're trying to get the reps in, but there's no purpose behind that. When I drill, I start about, 5-6 feet away from him. I stay in my stance and I get into him here. Then I'm going to attack, if that makes sense. So you have to be very disciplined with your stance in all the minutes that you're not touching it. So practice in, when you're doing your high crotch, single leg, double leg, anything like that, most of the time you're not touching your partner. There's this free space here. And that's the space you need to concentrate on when you start out young, or even when you're older in college level, senior level, you have to focus on the space that you're not touching it. Because if you can stay disciplined there, you limit his options. So, back in our good stance, I'm a right leg lead, knees bent, I'm engaged my hamstrings because now my back is flat, I'm looking at his hips, and the first contact I'm gonna make is with my head. Now the first contact I make is with my head is so that I can down block. So if my head is here, I can feel Gabe doing a level change. If Gabe goes level change, I can react and go down with him, or anticipate and match his level. So if it does happen where a guy gets past my head, now I have my arms free. So the lines of defense, head, hands, hips. Then you go crazy. So if Gabe shoots on me, gets past my head, my hands are here to basically knock him off balance or just to stuff his shot. He shoots here, my hands are there, now I can get my legs back. Now once I'm in this position, I can go try to score. Now let's say Gabe is really good, he shoots, he gets past my head and my hands. Well, right here, a lot of times guys are like, well, I'm gonna have to kick out, I'm gonna have to go into funk, or I'm just gonna get taken down. You gotta blast him with your hips. Now it's where your hips come in. Hit him with your hips, push him down. Now I start working to get my hips down away, legs down and away from him. So that's like the basics of your lines of defense. You got your head, you got your hands, and then you got your hips. And then after that, you can go crazy. When I say go crazy, I mean you do all the funk you wanna do, you can go into crotchless, chest wraps, all sorts of different things depending on the style that you're wrestling. So just by holding a good stance and good position, you make it so that you dictate the pace and you show this guy where you're gonna go. If I'm a lefty, and he's a righty, he's thinking he's gonna attack my lead leg, he's probably gonna shoot a sweep single or a low single, probably gonna try to attack this leg. When you wrestle somebody that's a lefty, your offense is going to change. Because the right leg's further back, you're gonna have to either take a deeper high crotch or you're gonna have to attack the front leg. So if I'm a righty, he's probably not gonna try to attack this back leg unless he can square me up and then attack. Why? Because I'm a right leg lead, I know that he's probably 75% of the time, he's coming for this leg. And because of that, I can prepare myself. I can prepare and be ready for this guy to attack. So I keep my head, my hands in good position, and then when he comes, I can anticipate that and defend his shot.